שלום וברכה מוריי ורבותיי, שלום וברכה, בעזרת השם נדמה את הצדיק, רבי חיים פינטו, דמות ועוד צדיקים, הקדוש ברוך הוא בעזרת השם will give everyone big ברכה והצלחה, נשיאתא דשמיא גדולה, מלכא דרמה וחטא וקהתה, and may this week, בעזרת השם, be a week full of redemption, and we will all achieve all our heart's wishes, amen, כן יהיה רצון, בעזרת השם. You know, רבותיי, every day we like to talk a little bit about the influence in which הקדוש ברוך הוא influences the day, as well as the characteristics of every single day in order to come to an understanding of better taking advantage. So now, but today is Monday. Monday, in essence, is the day of Gvura, which represents strength. There's a big teaching that the Zohar HaKadosh teaches in many, many different places about a person's personal strength, a person's personal Gvura, can be the cause of his success and the cause of his achievements, and as well be the cause of what? Be the cause of his failures, be the cause of his destructions, be the cause of all the bad things that occurs within his life. And we'll explain. We know, there's a pasuk that we teach and we learn in so many different places of this concept of Bnei Adam, man, was built in the image of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the image of God, B'Tselem Elokim. Now the idea of Tselem Elokim, the image of God, goes much deeper than just the way we are physically shaped. Because we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't necessarily share this idea of a shape. So this concept of HaKadosh Baruch Hu creating us in His image doesn't just reflect on the shape itself of our body, but it rather goes deeper into the aspect of how we are structured with our neshama, our nefesh, etc. And even the abilities in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu hid within us. And the most prominent ability, which really makes us Bnei Adam, is this concept of creation. Where Bnei Adam, man, was given a power that only HaKadosh Baruch Hu holds, where no other creation in the world, not this world, not in the higher world, not in the spiritual world, not in any world that can possibly exist, holds. And that is what? The power of creation. The power to create something from nothing. The power to take something that exists and change it into a different existence, into a new reality. And that is this idea of Yitzur. It exists with our mouth, it exists with our words, which is our mouth, it exists with our deeds, with our ma'asim, with our actions, as well as it exists within our machshava. Now, a person needs to understand that this concept and this ability to create that really made us godlike in his shape could exist in our favor and bring man the ability to create to himself new realities which didn't exist beforehand, of him being very wealthy, of him being very successful, of him being very happy, of him building a family, of him being able to reach to high levels of greatness, or chas v'shalom, his ability to create and to change and to form could chas v'shalom lead him into a path of creating things that are negative in that exact same manner, in the exact same capacity in which he could create good things. And you really see this, Rabbotah, in this week's parasha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, send spies. The spies come back and they express to Am Yisrael that Eretz Yisrael is a land full of big fruits. So whatever happened, which we're not going to get into it today, they understood that the big fruits is what? It's this idea that there are big people that plant these big fruits. And as a result of that, it will be very hard and very difficult for them to overcome, for them to take back a land with such inhabitants holding on to that land. Bnei Yisrael start to cry. The Torah says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Bnei Yisrael and says, I don't understand what you're doing. You're crying that you've traveled all this path and you have nowhere to go. But this crying is a crying of a tragedy when there is no tragedy. So how can you be crying when there's no reason to be crying for? There's nothing to mourn for. There's nothing to be sad about. HaKadosh Baruch Hu understood and he saw that what Bnei Yisrael are doing is, in their essence, they're crying for something that doesn't exist. Or in simpler words, in a form, whether if they were meaning it, whether if they were intending to it, they were creating something negative that doesn't exist. When a person cries for something that is tragic and so bad, and even though it doesn't exist, he'll end up creating that from this gift that Hashem gave us of the ability to create, to form, to be like Him, to take something that doesn't exist and to make something suddenly exist, to make something appear. Bnei Yisrael, in this week's parasha, did so, but in the worst way that can possibly occur. Where HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you are crying on a day where you have no reason to cry. So you just created yourself a reason to cry. And that's what Chazal is saying. That on that day that they had no reason to cry, cried, every single year, in every single generation, always some sort of reason was brought up to cause Bnei Israel to cry for something negative. And that's the idea of Tisha B'Av. When this week's parasha, Tisha B'Av was formed, was created. We know that Bnei Israel, for 40 years in the desert, which they were given these 40 years of the desert because of the idea of the crying for no reason. Every Tisha B'Av, before the destruction of any Bet HaMikdash, they would lay on their graves and they would prepare to pass away. And then whoever would pass away, they would just cover up the grave. And whoever would live, they would get up and wait for the next year. Tisha B'Av, the first Bet HaMikdash destruction occurred. Coincidentally, you can say, which it's not really a coincidence at all, but second Bet HaMikdash got destroyed. And throughout whole history, always, that first negative thought that we had at the time when we left Egypt, those tears that we shedded for something negative that occurred in that day that never really happened, for generations upon generation, existed something negative which was created from that initial negative thought. And that, Rabotai, is a big lesson that we have to understand, we have to learn throughout our life. A lot of the time, Rabotai, we look at our life and we value our lives in such negative ways. We say this is a problem and that is a problem and this is a challenge and that is a challenge and I'm sad because of this and I'm not happy because I didn't succeed in this manner and in that manner I wish I could succeed more here or there, whatever it is. We value our life and we start to give some sort of like a negative evaluation on our life. Now we know about that, we taught in so many different places throughout the past few weeks that there is no such thing as good or bad. So the idea of even valuing something and looking at our world and creating problems for ourselves and seeing where problems occur can chas v'shalom result in us creating negativity that never existed beforehand. And that, Rabotai, is the most dangerous thing that we can possibly agree. Because subconsciously, we end up creating our biggest fears. A person fixates on his fears and brings those fears to reality with the ability of creation that Hashem gave us. So we end up creating the things that we fear the most from. And that, Rabotai, is what we must learn from this week's parasha. Our own strength, our own gift, which is the ability to create, can be our biggest success or our biggest destruction. It can be what will build us to the highest levels of achieving our heart's wishes, or it can, chas v'shalom, bring to fruition our biggest fears, our biggest hardships, or the things that haunt us in the most vicious way possible. We have to understand our mind, our words, and our deeds create in a manner that we don't even understand to the slightest degree of our abilities, the ability to us to do so. We have to remember, every word that comes out of our mouth, every thought that runs through our mind, and every deed that we bring to fruition in our life has the ability to change our reality. And that is a challenge we all need to take upon ourselves, to look at our world and to always come to this understanding of creating positivity. And as long as we can create positive, and as long as we can see the world as the goodness that Hashem already gives us, that will be as long as we will continue to create and to continue to make new things from the world exists in a positive manner. And once we will do so, we will live lives that will be much happier, much more blessed, much more positive, much more successful, in order that we can not only fulfill our mission, but bring upon ourselves and upon all the people that surround us a personal redemption and a redemption for all Klal Am Yisrael. Amen.